In this Feast of the Epiphany, we celebrate the start of something truly big. God has opened his kingdom to all his children. And we may take that for granted nowadays, but if we remember in the time of the Hebrews, the covenant was just with the Hebrews, and they saw everyone else as a threat to God's plan. And God is saying through the wise men and through his invitation to them to come and see the Messiah, he is saying, I am opening up the kingdom to all my children. Now that goes against human nature. We're in a football season where we see people very quick to say, we're number one. And unfortunately, that usually goes with, and everybody else is a loser. We also have a tendency as human beings to say, how do I teach? How do I live what is right? And when we encounter people who sin, how do we deal with them? And it gets easy to say, keep them away. They deserve whatever is going to happen to them. And if I'm nice to them, people might think that I'm encouraging the sin. Well, again, we're being told that's not the case. And we'll hear Jesus throughout the year describing particulars of that. But he speaks to it with the shepherds who he invites, because the shepherds were considered, with the kind of work they did, they were unclean unless they went through many purification steps. So the Lord is saying, my kingdom and my welcome and my love are for everyone. Kind of using that football analogy, I was privileged for a month to be working with a physician in South Bend, and he was the team doctor for Notre Dame, and it was football season, and I got to hear national champion coach Lou Holtz give his team pep talks, and what struck me was the Christian message he gave. The one in particular that I remember is Notre Dame was playing a team that had been blacklisted. They had had recruiting violations for several years, and the NCAA had come down on them. And so they were, for a year, to have no ranking, no television, no publicity. And several of the teams they were going to play then canceled. Didn't want to have anything to do with them. But Notre Dame said, we will play you. And Coach Holtz told his team, if any of you shows disrespect to anyone on that other team, if any of you tries to look down on them and treat them as though they're no good, he said, you will not play for the next 2 games. He said, we have been blessed. And the way you deal with blessings is you share them, especially with those who are down. And so he said, we will show them respect because God respects and loves us. And that's an important thing to remember as we go through life, that as God has opened the kingdom to us, we have been blessed. And we need to share those blessings. It's one of the things I'm proud of being an American is we're about the best country there is for helping people in need. When there's an earthquake in Haiti, when there's famine in Africa, again and again, Americans have been the best donors. Here in our own country, we do so much for other people. And as we do that, we work to remind ourselves that we're blessed and to not look down on people who are less fortunate, sometimes through their own fault. I work for Food for the Journey, and they do a dinner meal 5 times a week for people who, some of whom are drug addicts and still in the throes, still mired in their addiction. Some of whom are jobless, and part of it is being lazy. And I have found myself thinking, aren't we kind of encouraging that? But the founder and the man who makes it work, he said, Father Bill, yeah, they make bad decisions, but will their decisions get better if we shun them and if they're hungry? And I remember the gospel, come you blessed of my Father, for when I was hungry you gave me to eat. So we're celebrating today. The Epiphany is God's way of telling the Hebrew people, hey, this is nothing against you, but you've gotten us to where I can now open the kingdom to all my children. You've gotten us to the point where the Messiah now is born among us, and he will show a message of love and a message that God loves us no matter how far we have fallen, no matter what group we might belong to. He has said, I'm going to welcome you and I'm going to give my love to you. And so we celebrate that we have benefited from that. We have been blessed. I don't know when your ancestors got the good news. My ancestors were German, and at one time they were pretty pagan, but some missioners got into them and they heard the good news and they embraced that kingdom that was open to them. And so this is a season where we should rejoice that we have become knowledgeable of our place in God's history of salvation. And we should renew our commitment to help others, especially those who are lost, who don't feel God's blessings, who have not yet truly heard the gospel message. And let us help them because we have benefited as the wise men have. We have heard the message and we have come to Jesus.